Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. Rutgers has lost one of its top commitments from the class of 2026 in defensive tackle Tavian Branch from Riverside, PA. He was a guy that we both were really high on. We'll get into what's going on with his recruitment. And then we'll kind of go a little bit around the Big Ten, talk about some results, look at some future opponents, and kind of discuss how they played in week one. But first, this podcast is presented to you by FanDuel. So last week, our recommendation was kind of stay away from the spread. I really like the over. You like the over. The over basically hit in the first half. The line is not out yet for the Rutgers-Miami game. But if you want to get in on some action tonight, FanDuel has some 50% odds boost tokens for the rest of the games this weekend. I like the over in the Miami Notre Dame game tonight, sitting at 50.5 right now. So that would be my recommendation if you're trying to get in on a little bit of gambling action tonight. But let's talk about Tavian Branch, the Riverside, PA defensive tackle commit. Just looked almost Big Ten ready as a high school senior. But he ends up decommitting from Rutgers after the game on Saturday. Bit of an abrupt thing. Rich, what are you hearing happened with his recruitment, and why is he deciding to decommit from Rutgers?
Well, before we get too far from the FanDuel talk, South Carolina -7.5. Lock it in. They've been pretty good so far this weekend, so I don't want to jinx it. Minus the Syracuse game. One game. Yeah, one game. Oh, no, I had UMass in that. Temple ended up. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Never mind. I'm out. Maybe I haven't been good. Don't listen to me anymore. But there was I did call the Ohio State Texas one. Okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that one and just walk away. But Tavian Branch, yeah, he had an interesting recruitment because it felt like it was always like Penn State, and he was going to go to Penn State. And it was like similar to an Elias Koch and a YD Collier recruitment, where at the very end he ends up going to Rutgers. Even Oklahoma was heavily involved. I think you remember the one coach wore the hat that we were talking about for a while. Crazy hat. But going back to this, then all of a sudden towards the very end of his recruitment, the commitment date came out, and then they were talking about how it was Rutgers or Oklahoma. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like Penn State just kind of like disappeared, because he's a damn good defensive tackle, and he's just very talented. He's massive, like you said, 6'3.5", legitimate 300 pounds. This was measured at Under Armour this offseason, so I'm sure he's probably bulked on a little bit too. But so now all of a sudden he decommits. Everyone's in a panic on the board saying it's because of the Ohio game, because the defense stinks. And it's like, no, it's not because the defense stinks, like number one. They did decommit because he wants to take other visits. He wants to look around. Some other schools are still in his ear, Penn State specifically being one of them. Along with that, he's also looking into visits to Auburn, who just offered a couple weeks ago. We posted that as soon as it went public. And then he also is going to visit Alabama, who offered, I think, a couple months ago, and kind of was just more of like a feel-good offer, like, hey, maybe come down here, work out for us, and we'll see how you do. But now that's starting to get a lot more interest. On top of that, Florida's interested, Ole Miss, Missouri, Colorado, who we know is willing to spend ungodly amounts of money to get people to Boulder. So it's just a matter of he's just going to go look elsewhere, and that's really it. Now, the one thing I did want to point out, and this is from Chad Simmons of On3, and shout out to him because he had the story like immediately as soon as the news popped out. And the quote from Branch was, "I need to go somewhere where I know I'm going to be developed into the player I want to be." And that's like a little bit of a slight, it seems like, towards Rutgers. It's not too good when you see that. So it is what it is. I mean, we know Greg Shanlon's visit policy, and he wanted to take visits. So that's basically, at the end of the day, it's not Greg saying like, hey, decommit then. It's more of like he wants to go elsewhere, it sounds like. Between that quote, between the visits, between everything else. He's going to Penn State next weekend. I feel like that's kind of probably the heavy favorite if I had to guess, but it is a kick in the nuts because he is a legitimate defensive tackle. Like, he is massive. He's talented. I saw him run. He's athletic. I saw him running tight end routes at 7-on-7 camps this year, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Don't hurt yourself. Like, stop. Like, so yeah, it is what it is. But
yeah, I was really excited on his potential, just given the size and athletic profile he's got. and just a very disruptive pass rusher from the defensive tackle position is not, they don't grow on trees. So I don't think they're going to have a 1-for-1 replacement of somebody like Tavian Branch in the class of 2026. Is probably going to be a priority position. I guess if we're looking at silver linings here, at least you have Doug Blue Eli coming back next year.
True.
Who might, obviously you're not expecting a ton from the defensive tackle position from a true freshman. You got guys like Braxton Kyle and who's the other kid they brought in that was highly touted at defensive tackle this past year. Braxton Kyle, and
there was another one I can't remember.
Yeah, but anyway, they have some decent depth in the program at defensive tackle, but you can never have too much depth at defensive tackle in general. And given that he's taking these visits to other top programs, I would imagine maybe there's a lot of things that could be playing a part in this. Money could be playing a part.
Giant Simon. I should have known
Giant Simon. Yep.
Yeah.
But bummer, but in season recruiting stuff doesn't really rattle me as much as it would in the off season. Is there anything else about Tavian before we get into in-season talk?
I just want to throw a couple names out there as potential flip candidates for defensive tackle. Right now, they do have Jermaine Polk committed, and he's locked in. He's coming from the Midwest. It seems like he's solid. They have Reese Beck, who's technically listed as a defensive end, and he's already 6'5", 250. So I'm intrigued to see how his body shapes once he adds more weight and muscle, and once he gets to campus. So we'll kind of figure out that one down the line. Carter Gooden is a name that did take an official visit to campus. He's a Canadian kid that's at St. Thomas More, at Tabor Academy up in Massachusetts. He ends up committing to UCLA. So I would not be shocked if Rutgers started to kick the tires a little bit more there. There's also Amir Clark, who they probably could have had if they really want it, out of Florida, Osceola High School. I think that's Bo Mascow's high school, if I recall. But they probably could have had him, and he ended up going to Georgia Tech in the end. Now, is he locked in with Georgia Tech? Who knows? You got to kick the tires, wait and see. But he also took an official visit this summer. Then there's some other random names out there. There's Jude Okaleke, who's a Connecticut kid, committed to Temple. I know Rutgers has hosted him on a couple different visits. And just like last year, there was Latrell Noel and Cannon Marshall. These are kids that we don't know about and late in the process. So it just seems like every year more and more kids are starting to show up and reclassify early. Like YD Collier reclassified 3 weeks ago. Those two other guys reclassified in June, July. So there might be a kid out there that they'll end up working out, and they'll be like, "Hey, look at this! You want a scholarship? You're pretty good. Come on! We'll turn you into a superstar defensive tackle." So, while it hurts to lose Tavian Branch, I do think there's other options out there.
Yeah, and we'll see what they strategize moving forward. But for now, it's just kind of a bit of a raw decommit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some around the Big Ten action. So I'm just going to rip through some of these, and we'll talk about a few individually. Minnesota beat the Buffalo Bulls. I always get those mixed up. At home, 23-10. Nebraska won in a neutral site game against Cincinnati at Arrowhead Stadium, 20-17. Wisconsin really struggled against Miami of Ohio. They won 17-0, but that game was 3-0 midway through the third quarter. Illinois won handily at home against Western Illinois, 52-3. Michigan State beat Western Michigan, 23-6. Ohio State and Texas played a defensive chess match yesterday where Ohio State won 14-7. Penn State blew past Nevada, 46-11. Oregon dominated Montana State, who's a pretty high-level FCS team. I think they're ranked top 10 in the FCS. They won 59-13. Michigan beat the Lobos of New Mexico, 34-17 at home. Indiana struggled early with Old Dominion, but won 27-14. Maryland beat Florida Atlantic, 39-7. Purdue beat Ball State 31-0. Tulane, I wouldn't say this is a shocker because they were a favorite in this game, but they just embarrassed Northwestern 23-3 at home for the Tulane Green Wave. Iowa looked really bad against the University of Albany, which I guess is probably the thing that I'm tuned into most as a Rutgers fan from the results this weekend, 34-7. USC dominated Missouri State 73-13. Utah went into UCLA and actually absolutely dog walked the Bruins. They beat them 43-10 in Nico. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name's debut as a Bruin. Yeah. And then Washington closed out the slate with a dominant 38-21 win against the Colorado State Rams. I want to start off with this Iowa game because that, to me, given that it's one of our next few opponents, stood out the most in a bad way. There was a lot of promising performances out of the day, but if you look at the stats of this game, you thought you go out and get an FCS All-American, could have been probably a late draft pick last year if he entered the draft, in Mark Gronowski, and he goes 8 for 15 for 44 yards in his debut against an FCS opponent. This is also a game that was like 7-3 midway through the second quarter. Like, this is a very slow start for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they just kind of slowly ground down this Albany team. But not a great performance from them.
I hate to say it, but I told everyone on the season preview extravaganza podcast, Gronowski, I think that's how you say it.
Gronowski
was not good. Like, the first clip that everyone was talking about, it went super viral, whatever, cool. And it wasn't even like a crazy clip. And then 2 clips later, like from beat reporters, it's him struggling. Like, he's fumbling snaps. He's just throwing pick sixes in practice and scrimmages. So it's like, and then he goes 8 of 15 against Albany. Like, you have to think, and mind you, Rutgers played piss poor on Thursday on defense. You have to think Albany's defense is worse than Rutgers.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, Rutgers should be able to at least keep the Iowa offense in check a little bit. Maybe I'm looking way too far in advance too, because there'll be a different team 3 weeks from now. So both teams will, but It's just absolutely disgusting. Like, gross Iowa offense. It doesn't matter who the OC is. As long as Kirk Ferentz is there, that offense is going to stink.
Some other results that perked my ears up. Miami, Ohio, they're obviously our next opponent. They played in Madison. They lost 17-0, but this was a game that was, like I said, 3-0 midway through the third quarter. Miami's of Ohio's defense is usually pretty stout under their current defensive coordinator, Bill Breckton. He's been with Chuck Martin, the head coach at Miami of Ohio, for each of his 12 years as head coach. Spent the last 4 as the defensive coordinator. In 3 of those 4 years, he's had a top 15 defense in a number of categories, including scoring defense, including sack rate, a bunch of stats that actually kind of mean something. I don't have them in front of me, but he's an experienced coordinator who's put up some really high end defenses, and they stifled the Wisconsin Badgers. And obviously, losing your quarterback in Billy Edwards early in the game doesn't help with that. But Miami, Ohio's offense doesn't look great, but their defense looks like they might have the opportunity to give us some troubles if we let it.
Yeah, they're replacing so much. I think they have like 3 or 4 starters on defense returning, and I think their entire offense, if I recall reading correctly, is brand new. So it is what it is. I mean, I think they return 1 or 2 offensive linemen, but that's about it. But it's going to be a struggle for them. I don't think they're really going to do much. A new quarterback, they're not Ohio. Put it like that. I think Ohio's better than them, and I mean that's actually a given fact considering Ohio beat them in the MAC championship last year. But I just don't think they're anywhere near as good as that Ohio team. And I think Parker Navarro is a stud. I've said that before. I don't think Finn, a quarterback there, is by any means a stud. So I think Rutgers should be able to not win easily. Like, it's still going to be like uncomfortable for probably like a quarter or 2, but I think Rutgers offense should be able to kind of steamroll them.
If you had to just take a guess, and I'll write one down too. So write down what you think the spread's going to be on FanDuel when it comes out.
Let's see. What was the last one? That was 15.5.
Rutgers started as a 10.5 point favorite, but it opened up to a 15.5 point favorite.
I need a better piece of paper. got it.
All right, the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I got
Ooh.
Rutgers as a minus 16.5 point favorite. Richie's got them as a minus 13.5 point favorite. You got them a bit lower. Why do you? What's your kind of thought process? I know it was just off the cuff.
The spread just I don't know. I just feel like after watching Rutgers defense, like they're probably going to give up points to Miami, Ohio. I just feel like if you only beat Ohio by 3, mind you, again, Ohio's better. I think it depends because like if Rutgers just kind of didn't step or just didn't hit the brake pedal halfway through the game, like I feel like they probably could have covered even against Ohio, but they were up 17.5. So that's the question mark. I probably should have won a little bit higher now I think about it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm so scared that like Greg's going to get like a 10+ point lead and do the same thing again. Just be like, hey, let's just kind of cruise to this 10-point win. Like, let's just run the ball. Like they had 3 drives in the second half. Like they were playing very conservative. So does Greg trust his defense against this Miami Ohio team? Because it doesn't seem like he trusted him against Ohio. So like, I don't know. I just feel like they'll just get a nice little lead, a comfortable one, and just kind of, all right, let's go into the sunset. Like,
yeah, it's not a bad way of looking at it. I don't disagree, and maybe mine's a little high. But my thought process is, I think Ohio was better than any of us were giving them credit for. I think that's a team that it would not shock me in the slightest if they took down West Virginia this weekend. And West Virginia looked pretty good in Rich Rod 2.0 first game back. That'll be a game that I'm definitely keeping track of on Saturday to see how they're doing. But I just thought that Miami, Ohio just looked totally lost on offense, totally lost. Just like they could, like it was like 11 guys got 11 different play calls and all ran different things while they were out there.
Yeah.
I'm just not confident that they can put up points, even if they, are playing a pretty bad defense at Rutgers. So that's kind of, I could see it being fairly low scoring. Like it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Rutgers won like 27-6 or something like that, where it was just like, Rutgers covers the spread, but the over under, misses by 20 points, whatever it ends up being. But
yeah, I mean, their quarterback last week was, again, this is Wisconsin, 9 of 18, or I'm sorry, Miami, Ohio against Wisconsin, 9 of 18 for 2 interceptions. Like, yeah, that's not good. So maybe I did undershoot it a little bit, but again, I still think Greg gets that nice, like, comfortable lead, and he's like, all right, we're done. Put the backups in.
Yep. I want to talk about Washington next. Washington, I thought, looked scary. Like, that is a team that they brought back a lot of guys. Damon Williams, a lot of their fans were kind of clamoring for by the end of the season last year. And he was kind of rotating in at different times. But, I mean, he was 18 of 24 for 226 yards and a touchdown through the air. He had another 68 yards on 13 carries on the ground. Jonah Coleman just looks like the same animal that he was last year. 24 carries, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Denzel Boston is a guy who's getting a lot of hype in the draft community as a guy who could potentially rise to a first-round pick even this offseason. He had 5 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Just a very dangerous team offensively.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah Coleman's always going to be a problem. It was a problem last year. It was just like a running back duel between him and Monangai, basically. And then we know mobile quarterbacks, they give Rutgers fits, and Williams is exactly that. Like, I had him pegged as lost, personally, so I just don't see a way Rutgers could pull this one off. But maybe, who knows? Maybe this is a totally different Rutgers team by week 4 or 5, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it was a 2020, or it was a tie game, 21-21, midway through the third quarter in Washington, then started to pull away. But it's going to be a game, and it's going to be the same for a lot of games next season or this season. Rutgers is going to have to outscore teams unless they really kind of make some serious adjustments on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, that's that. They have that net rest advantage too, right? For that,
they're going to. Yeah, that's going to be a game coming off the bye for Rutgers after Minnesota game.
Never know.
Minnesota's the one I want to touch on. They won 23-10 on Thursday night. I don't know if anyone saw it, but maybe the craziest interception that'll happen all year. Drake Lindsay dropped back and was trying to throw a screen to either his tight end or his wide receiver.
So
the guy falls down, and as he's like falling down, his leg flails up in the air and kicks the pass straight up, and the Buffalo linebacker picks it off and almost takes it to the house. Darius Taylor makes a touchdown saving tackle. But Drake Lindsay is being broken in as the new starting quarterback. He was 19 of 35 for 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, here's the interception for those of you watching on YouTube.
Right off the knee.
Just, I've never seen it. That's the kind of thing that like you see it as like a glitch in CFB 26, and you just want to like throw the PlayStation across the room.
It's just pure timing, like
just
the
like
linebacker just being perfect, like
unbelievable. Like I saw it in real
Incredible.
time, like rewatching some of the highlights, and the guy's like running with the ball. I'm like, that hit the ground. What is he doing? And then you see it in slow mo. It's like, oh my
crazy.
god,
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think Minnesota looked particularly threatening in the rewatch of some of the highlights, and obviously it's just highlights, whatever. But Darius Taylor is another stud running back in the Big Ten that we'll be facing this year. So the game planning will have to be kind of built around him, because he's just a true like 3-down threat. He's really good in the pass game as well. So
yeah, Rutgers is going to have to create pressure for that one. Like Drake Lindsay's numbers were atrocious technically, but like you said, Taylor went for what, 130, 140?
Yeah,
like,
140 and then another 40 through the air.
Yeah. So he's a problem, but they got to figure out the run defense. Got to figure out the defense in general, not just the run defense. There's so many issues with it. So hopefully you get those kinks worked out in the next couple weeks between Miami and Norfolk and go from there.
Those are the main games I wanted to touch on. Anything that you wanted to hit on from the Big Ten slate?
I mean, Ohio State's defense looks damn good. Their offense is a little questionable. Let's see. Penn State looks pretty good. Indiana struggled. They don't play them this year, of course, but they've struggled a little bit, like you said, against Old Dominion. Maryland, new quarterback. They're just going to make – is that what they're going to do? They're just going to make them chuck the ball 50 times a game? Like, they struggled early on too, didn't they? They were down. They were only up like 7-0, or was it Florida Atlantic up first? I forget who it was, but
it was a 7-7 game going into the second quarter. Then it was all Maryland after that.
Yeah, I don't think they looked particularly good though either. Like Florida Atlantic's got a new coach, new team, like not very good. I don't know. The Big Ten's kind of interesting. Like I still quietly think Rutgers is going to have a good year. Like I don't think the Ohio game really like shied me away from not changing any predictions because you can't. But I'm kind of still confident it's still going to be 6-7 wins.
Yeah, the crazy thing about the Maryland game is Maryland had 6 interceptions. They picked off the FAU's quarterback 6 times. I didn't see each one, so I can't speak to what they each looked like. One of them was returned for a touchdown, but pretty crazy. 6 interceptions.
Ridiculous.
All right, that's all we got for today. Greg Schiano will be speaking to the media tomorrow for his game week presser, even though it's on Labor Day. So that's when he'll discuss everything Miami of Ohio. We will probably be potting tomorrow at some point to discuss everything he said and kind of break down what we saw on a rewatch from the Rutgers game. We have a lot of notes from things we saw on the rewatch that we wanted to touch on, but some of the things better than expected, some of the things worse than expected. So stick around your podcast feed tomorrow, and we will have that in your ears as you sit on the beach or your boat or watch some fireworks, whatever you do on Labor Day. We will be there for you. And hopefully by tomorrow we have our FanDuel line. We could discuss who is closer on the projection there between Richie and I for the spread. Anything else you wanted to hit on before you head out?
No, that's pretty much it. As always, sign up for the nightreport.com right now. It's $1. You get all kinds of insight and types of scoop. Like I said before, Chad Simmons broke the recruiting scoop. on Tavian Branch's decommitment. We have a couple more reactions from recruits on there too. But PFF grades, all that other good stuff. That's pretty much it.
I do want to send my condolences to Kelly Zinn. Suffered her first loss as athletic director.
Right.
Volleyball fell to Liberty yesterday in the first loss of her era. So it was a good run going undefeated, but came to an end.
Yeah, I hate to say it. That might be the first coach. I think I had projected either a different coach at Rutgers, whether it be men's soccer, but they turned it around. Women's basketball, maybe they turn it around this year. It might be volleyball. It might be the first coach on the chopping block.
Yeah, I could see it. I definitely could see it. I think there's a few tough decisions she's going to have to probably make in her first year that, will involve some coaching changes, which you never want to see, but sometimes
that's going to happen. Bad news. Bad year for Rutgers to start charging for volleyball games.
I know. There actually was one more thing I wanted to talk about. The aforementioned Temple UMass game from this past weekend was just
Rutgers
littered with, it was the Rutgers Bowl. So I'll just go through some stats. Former Rutgers quarterback in this one, Evan Simon, went 19 of 25 for 248 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he had another 4 rushes for 21 yards on the ground. Former Rutgers receiver commitment, JoJo Bermudez, blast from the past there. He tallied 7 catches for 87 yards. Former Rutgers defensive lineman Cameron Stewart has 1 sack in the game and 2 tackles for loss and a pass deflection from the defensive end position. He looked really good. I actually kind of want to pull up the PFF grades even from this game because it was kind of that impressive. On the other side of things, obviously Joe Harris-Simiak is the head coach now at UMass, but there was a few Rutgers players who are now starting for UMass. David Unoa, I think his name is, had 7 tackles. Timmy Hinspeter is the starting middle linebacker there. He had 7 tackles and a tackle for loss. I think that's it from that side of things. But yeah, it was a closer game than 42-10. And in watching most of that game, Harris-Simiak was not. He wasn't playing to keep the score close. He was playing to win. So they went for it on 4th down a few times, deep in their own territory when they were down by multiple scores in the second half. Like I'm 100% behind that kind of coaching, where like I would rather lose by 40 but be playing to win than lose by 20 and playing basically like the damage control. Nobody likes that.
Going back to the Hinspeter and the David Anoa, like I know some people, like we were talking, I think it was in our chat, right? Like it's not too shocking that like those guys are starting at UMass and playing significant snaps. Like they played at Rutgers as preferred walk-ons, so it's like now they're just on full scholarship down or up there.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising at all. Evan Simon had a 91.6 grade in this game. JoJo Bermudez had a 79.5 grade in this game. Cameron Stewart, unreal, a 97.0 grade out of this game. Yeah. And if we're just looking at the overall numbers in terms of rankings, that's got to be up there. He might be the number 1 rated defensive lineman out of this weekend.
How does this keep happening? How do these edge rushers leave Rutgers? And I know it's the G5 level, and it's against a MAC school who wasn't even in a MAC school last year. So it's like between, who was it? Rondell Carter turned into a superstar, FCS All-American at James Madison.
That was the one I forgot about, Rondell Carter.
Brian Ugu went to Miami, Ohio, dominated, now is in the league. And now we got Cameron Stewart. Shout out to him, though. Yeah, he was always pretty cool.
I'm trying to find him. I wonder if they have him listed as an interior defender from yesterday.
I just had it pulled up too.
He might not have hit the snaps threshold. I'm trying to.
Cameron Stewart. I'm on UMass. Temple. I don't even see him. How many snaps did he play? No, right edge.
Okay, so yeah, he is the number 1 rated defensive end in PFF's grading system. He didn't play enough defensive snaps to register at a ranking, but he's got a 97.0 grade. Insane.
Damn. That's.
But yeah, another guy was Jemery Croma, who ended up at JMU, ended up having a cup of coffee in the league.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Seems like they have a great eye for identifying talent, but they haven't developed defensive linemen the way you would have hoped in the 2.0 era.
I mean, you saw it on Saturday or Thursday.
All right, well, that's all we got. Thanks once again for listening. We will be back in your podcast feeds tomorrow afternoon, some point, probably late afternoon. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.